Oh. Oh.
What I was actually talking about was the power of momentum, and we were talking about how in sporting events like in basketball games or football games, that one team can actually be losing on the scoreboard, but they have momentum. And it's interesting to look at the sidelines when that's happening because the team, even though on the scoreboard they are winning, they have the body language of someone that's losing, and the same and vice versa. The other team that's losing on the scoreboard, they have momentum. Their body language is really high, and so it's kind of one of those things where momentum is a very powerful thing. And so when we look at in doTERRA, my question to the mastermind is what have you seen that has caused the momentum? Like when you were building your team, what are the activities that caused the most momentum? And what are you seeing now? Like on the teams that you have where momentum is where teams are growing and they've experienced that momentum, what are they doing? And so hit star 5 star if you have any ideas on this. And I'm gonna while I'm waiting for that,
I'm going to do a call out too.
Yeah.
If Lindsay Manicule is on the line, she has incredible momentum.
Okay, good. Yeah. So,
Oh, yeah.
Lindsay, if you hit star 5 star, if you have some input into this, but the point is that like I've said this in the past that building a DoTerra business is similar to starting a fire by rubbing two sticks together. That you take the time to you're sitting there trying to build momentum, and then if there's enough friction, enough momentum, then eventually you have this spontaneous combustion. And in the beginning of the business, that's what it feels like. You're working your butt off, and you're rubbing those sticks together, and then all of a sudden little smoke starts happening, and you got to kind of, but eventually you get that little fire going, and then you have to tend that very carefully. And then eventually that fire becomes large enough that you can sit back and enjoy the warmth that was created from that fire without having to put as much effort into it, other than throwing on an occasional log. But I think that when people build out of town teams, they say, how do you build teams out of state or out of country or whatever? And the answer is that you have to keep showing up until that team hits a point of momentum to where it's going to grow without you having to put in the effort, that it's gone beyond you.
Right. I think using that fire analogy, I think a lot of people when they think of building outside of their area, they never build a strong base, and so it's the equivalent of throwing coals out. If you're
Right.
like,
Separating
I
coals.
talked to a person
Yeah.
in Idaho, right, and I'd throw the coal out there instead of going to Idaho and actually forming the fire pit and
Gathering
creating
the
the
coals and-
kindling and putting enough pressure on the area that you start to. So what I did when I built outside area, first I had a strong base where I lived, right, and so I had a good fire going there, and then I went to my outside area and I built the fire pit, and I created the smoke,
rubbing the sticks- exactly.
and then I created a massive bonfire in my outside area, and between those two, then others started doing the same thing. They started going to their outside areas and creating strong fires in those areas instead of just throwing coals out across the nation or even across the world. Usually, if you just have a person out by themselves without enough contact or enough pressure or enough follow-up or enough accountability or things like that, then those lines invariably have difficulty.
Which is why I always thought it was interesting when I'd hear people say, well, I'll teach a couple classes for someone, but once I've taught 2 or 3, they're on their own. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, that really accomplished something. I mean, what if they're
Right.
not ready to do it on their own? Basically, you don't sit there and go, well, I've rubbed these sticks together long enough. There should be fire here. It's like, but there's not. So you keep showing up until there is, and you build that momentum to where a fire is going. And I've seen people where the fire is small, and they go, oh, okay, the fire started, but you got to tend the fire.
Right.
In the beginning, you're like
I know.
blocking
Gotta
it from
shelter
wind, and you're putting
Right.
on just small sticks at first, and eventually larger ones. But momentum is this idea that a lot of activity, small activity done over time, starts to create a big movement,
Right.
and then you can do that. So again, the question to the mastermind is what are you doing that is creating momentum? So here's Lindsay.
Oh, awesome.
All right, Lindsay, your line is unmuted. What is
Hi.
what wisdom can you impart to us today?
Momentum, lots and lots and lots of hard work, but it's really, really fun hard work because once you have people that are excited, it excites everyone around them. And it's something that I've seen in my business anyways, is that you get to create the momentum that you want in your team. And the way that you create that is by your own actions and the ways that you move, and kind of dancing with the people who want to dance with you at whatever speed they want to go at. You might have somebody who's ready to, really rock out and have fun with this and really take off, but then you might have people that are, they're more of a slow moving. And I've noticed that if you just love them where they're at and go and dance with them, and this is what I see in my head anyway, when you go and dance with them, you can kind of change their tempo by them seeing your excitement and your momentum. And it can be created in many different ways. I mean, I just started Diamond Club 2 months ago. But before then, I had laying the groundwork for this great momentum to start happening. And the way that we did that was really just by exciting people and spending a lot of time building relationships with them so that I know what their goals are and they know what my goals are. And everyone wants to work collectively to make this happen. And it's really a beautiful thing to see so much excitement everywhere. It kind of explodes. And I love you guys' fire analogy. It's a beautiful picture. But for me, I've always seen it because Alonso talks a lot about airplanes. And I could never see his airplane analogy every time he would tell it to me. I tried really hard to figure it out, but it didn't work for me. So I thought of the airplane like he was talking about. I get to be the pilot of my whole organization. And the pilot, when he's on the runway, he doesn't let up at any time until his plane is in the air and it's at the altitude that it's meant to reach. So my job as the pilot of my business, and this is what I teach everybody on my team, is that you get to be the pilot of your own organization. You don't let a passenger fly the plane. I mean, you get to fly the plane, and you get to do that by setting whatever tone it is that you want to do, and you don't let up on that until you've reached what goal you want to get to. So for me, heaven knows when I'm going to let up on the momentum, because I just absolutely love what I'm doing. I would share it with everybody and I do share it with everybody, and I don't ever plan on changing the way I'm doing it at this point because it just works for me. So I think that my biggest take on all of it is you set it by your own actions and then help your leaders to understand whatever actions it is that they're putting forth is what their team is going to do with them.
Right. So
creating massive actions by your own. I tell everybody, if you want your leaders to have 2 classes a week, you need to at least be doing 2 to 3.
Right. Yeah. In fact, so we've talked about this before, where people will do about 75% of the good stuff that you do, and 100% of the bad stuff. So if you want them to do good, then you got to be extra good. And but unfortunately, it's not hard to follow bad behavior. Thank you, Lindsay. Hey, by the way, just for the sake of the people on the call that maybe haven't experienced this, but describe what it's like when momentum does hit your organization. Like when you're in the throes of momentum and you start, what does it feel like?
Oh my God, it's so overwhelming. It's so fun. And thinking about doTERRA at this point, it's so exciting and so liberating to see. I just this weekend, my trip this weekend was out to Richmond. And, these girls aren't my qualifying legs, but they're just really excited girls on my team. And they know that the momentum that we're building right now is really exciting. And they're so inspiring to be with them that I made sure that this month, because I knew that this month is the month we're going platinum, I wanted to start my month with my cup full. And I fill my own cup by doing that with them. So I went out there and we did a boot camp, we did open house, we did class after class, and it was so exciting. We walked out of this weekend with 18 new enrollments, and everybody's excited. My phone's blowing up with excitement from them. So it's just, once you have fire lit, it's so much easier to light everybody else's because you're so on fire and you're so excited that it's crazy. I mean, we were averaging about 40 to 50 enrollments back in January, and last month we almost had 100. So we've doubled that. We've doubled our OV. These are things that I see happening. So it's absolutely the most exhilarating thing that I've ever felt, because I get to kind of remember that I had a hand in starting all of this, and it was my own action that started this, because I got to excite people along the way.
Yes.
So it's the most amazing feeling ever.
That's a great description, because, you know, I mean, do you remember when you first get started and you're building your little tree in your back office?
Oh, yeah. I remember watching it every day.
Yeah,
by the hour.
Yeah, and you're watching it by the hour, and like a circle appears, you know, and that type of thing. And then what happens is that somebody enrolls that you weren't there. Like, wait, someone showed up in my tree and I actually wasn't the one there signing them up. and it starts to build this little bit of momentum. But it always starts with you. I also like how Lindsay mentioned, you know, being the pilot of your own ship. Like,
excellent point.
You know, you can't wait for your upline to come in and create momentum for you. You have to do it. You're the pilot. It's your team. And the other thing I think that she mentioned that's important is Diamond Club. You know, I think the power of Diamond Club is it's a what is it, a 90-day program?
It's 90.
It's like 3 months, just working your butt off for 3 months to create momentum. And the point of it is to build up enough activity that it's going to grow without you. And another analogy that we use a lot for describing momentum is pushing a boulder to the top of a mountain. But then once you get to the top and it goes over that crest, it's like you can't stop it. It just goes. You know, I don't know if any of you have ever gone out rock rolling. I grew up in a small town, and so we would do stuff like this. But when we'd go to the top of a mountain and just like get some jacks and start, you know, cracking off these big boulders, and they just come down off that mountain. And I'm telling you, when you get a big boulder rolling, it is, once the momentum is started, that thing is going to do some damage.
Right. You know what's really cool about the examples that Lindsay gave and that you gave in the beginning about fires and airplanes and things like that. The one point that's really standing out to me is that all of these things are predictable. I mean, you can create a fire 100% of the time if you have the right elements, right? If you have air, if you have fuel, if you have the ignition, this spark. The same thing with an airplane. You can get an airplane in the air 100% of the time if all the elements are correct. You know, you have lift, you know, the wing
thrust,
thrust. Fuel, you know, all these things. And so if you bring that back, sometimes I hear people when we're out mentoring saying, "Oh, I don't know how to get my business going," or things like that. But I keep telling them it's absolutely 100% predictable. I mean, you can't. It just succeeding literally is a choice of whether or not you're going to provide the fuel, the friction, the spark, you know, the lift, the thrust. Right. In your organization. If you do the fundamental activities, the plane will take off, the fire will burn. Yeah. And so sometimes I think people approach the business and momentum lags because of self-belief. They don't believe that they can do it. But
in reality, just do the activities.
Right, because you and I, like when we go out mentoring or when I'm in front of one of my team, I'm just like, look, you just gotta. You got to know that the pathway exists, and I repeat that over and over again, and when I look at people, I realize that it's fully in their hands, whether or not they choose it or they. And I'm like, look, you can get excited about that. You can have faith that you can get excited about this, because if you start in the activities, and you put those elements together, then it's a natural consequence.
Yep. Great. Okay, Julianne Ellis, your line is unmuted. What is your comment?
Well, I guess you were asking about like momentum. What creates momentum?
Yes.
In a business, and I think what I've seen. So I've kind of in the last little while, for a while, kind of taken the back seat, and I've kind of let David, you know, take the reins of things, and then I just felt very strongly that I needed to come back in. And when I started coming back in, it was kind of like this, gosh, how do I create momentum, right? How do I really get things going again? Feeling like I needed to have classes, but not quite sure what to do. And I think just when you finally decide that this is what you're going to do, and you decide that I'm going to make this work because I already know it works, but it's like I need to get my feet wet again and start going out and teaching classes. Um, and the thing that was really neat is just being like, I have prepared myself. So I carried samples with me everywhere I went. And I talked to people about, I connected with people, I talked to people, and I started just kind of just being there and opening my mouth and talking to people. And I was like, I'm going to do this. We're going to, create some momentum. And before I knew it, people just started showing up. Just builders were just coming to me. I'd find people at Costco that I'd run into, and before I know it, in 10 minutes, like, I have a builder, and I'm going, oh my gosh, like, I was, being open. I gave her a sample, and then I had a class scheduled, and so she came to the class. And then there's, been some other people that we've been working with. That, like, I don't know how to describe the momentum other than when you get back into census and you actually do those classes and you set them up and you talk to 20 people and no one shows up and you're like, dang it, okay, I didn't do a good enough job. I need to, keep at it again and keep at it again. To me, it's when you're bringing new blood into your business, when you're bringing new people and you're just being open to, okay, who needs this in their life? Who is ready for it right now and needs it in their life? You'll find tons of people that just want to be customers and maybe on a smaller scale, and then a handful of those that want to be builders. To me, the momentum is created when all of a sudden you find that person that's like, yes, I want to do this. And it may be at a small level, it may be a large level. You create that and you start helping them. But I still do my own classes, but then now I have several new builders that we're working with. And the excitement for me is, okay, trying to help them. They're excited, and this excitement is really awesome, but it's going to end. That momentum is going to end if I, as a leader, they obviously have to bring the people, but I want to help them, encourage them to find builders, right? I want to encourage them to do what I'm doing and opening their mouth and sharing samples and bringing people to classes, and I'm wanting to help them identify builders. So in the process of, like you were talking about earlier, you want people to be duplicatable. Like, I want people to learn the class, but my point in them learning the class is to help them find builders as well in the process. And so to me, it's this, the momentum is when you're excited because you're in the trenches. Like, I'm doing classes myself. Now I'm helping others do their classes, and I'm helping them duplicate themselves, and I'm helping them find builders and identify them because they're not quite at that skill level yet to identify those. I think some of those are momentum skills, but it's also one that you have to help them understand, when they're like, well, it's not going fast enough. It's not, well, momentum is, so the analogy that I remember from long ago that you explained was the boulder, that it's not going to be this super easy, oh, awesome, I'm just going to find a bunch of people and I'm going to, just nail it out of the park. I'm just going to be diamond in no time. Like, to become a diamond, it takes that pressure. The pull that's under pressure for a long period of time is what makes a diamond, right? And it's the same thing in our business, is helping them with that momentum and that pressure that they have to consistently do the action. But in turn, like, I am trying to help cultivate and find those builders, and we can identify them to find builders. That's where the excitement and the momentum comes, because now then they have somebody that they're going, oh, now I need to train them, and I'm not sure what to do when they're asking questions. And it kind of is a ricochet. It's this, you're pushing this boulder up the mountain until you have one builder, or maybe two builders, or you put enough contacts in your contact pool to have come to classes. It's those type of things that I think create momentum that really help you have a successful business and create that foundation that you're looking for. But new people and opening your mouth and giving out samples, that is a lot of, creates the momentum to start bringing people to classes and closing them and finding builders. So
Yep.
to me, that's kind of what I would say is creating momentum.
Yeah, I think that you made a lot of points here. One of them is that it's the new people, it's new blood is what creates a lot of momentum, right? Obviously, because it means that there's more excitement coming in, and it's that hopeful, full of hope that people walk into the business with. That's where the excitement is, you know. Like we can literally sit with a group of blue diamonds, and all of us just be bored and not excited. And it's because we've kind of already made it. But there's something awesome about helping someone who has just nothing but a bunch of hope in their eyes, you know. The other thing I really liked about what you were saying is that decision creates momentum. We had our mastermind call last week was on the power of decision, and you're correct that when a person decides, then providence moves too. We've talked about that before, but it's when you've decided to do something, then you're carrying the samples with you. Then you're open to receiving and receiving those opportunities in your life. I liked the words you said where you walk around thinking, who needs this in their life right now? And just having that, and then of course the other thing is I took away from what you said is the importance of consistent action. Momentum does not happen without consistency. If you're not consistent, then none of you can be. If you're excited for a day, that's fine, but that won't create momentum. It's a sustained level of excitement that creates momentum. Thank you. Awesome comments. Mary Sisti. All right, Mary, I just unmuted your line. Go ahead.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
So just to build upon what she said earlier, the momentum, like you said, and consistency, of course, but also I just want to point out that Lindsay was just so enthusiastic. You can hear the enthusiasm in her voice when she spoke. And I've heard multiple times in my classes, people coming out of my class and just telling me how they know that I am in the right business. I'm in the right part of my life because they see the enthusiasm that I have for the oils and helping people. And I feel if you have that enthusiasm and of sharing the oils, loving the oils for what they are, they're natural healers for people, and people need that so much. And if you show that in your class, then you will create that environment of, wow, this girl is so enthusiastic, and I want to join her team because she obviously knows what's going on.
Yep.
And so when I share, I don't just sit there and just pass out oils and say good luck, here's a book and there you go. No, it's like constant talking to my downline, and even when I get someone into the oil, it's like a natural. How are you doing? What's going on with the oils? We've had good oil testimonies yet. Constantly talking to them and caring for them, and that really sets me apart from people who just share and give out oil and never follow through. So I think how I build momentum is just showing people the love for the business and love for the oils and love for sharing. I feel like if someone stops, not just if they don't want to do the business, if they naturally share oils for their family, then that family is going to look at that love and that enthusiasm for it and know that, hey, she's got something here. I want to learn more. I want to come to a class too because of how enthusiastic she is. So I feel like you need to have enthusiasm and natural love for the oil, love for sharing, and showing that in your classes and even in the business overviews. Because I live the 631 natural every day, and I love doing the business overviews. And I've become from full-time nurse down to PRN nurse, which means I tell them when I can work at the hospital. I'm a labor and delivery nurse, so I love the babies still. So I the choice is mine now. I can come in and do my job. So
That's fantastic.
this match being great. I am so enthusiastic for the business overview because I know people want to be there too. And so when I have my new people coming in and inquiring about the business, I tell people, utilize me. I'm living and breathing the business overview. So on top of that, I want people to really stress the importance of utilizing your upline and helping your downline by doing meetings with them, meeting with the new people, just because you're living it.
Yep. Yeah, this is all awesome stuff, Mary. And what I took away from what I'm taking away from what you're teaching us is that excitement and enthusiasm are a part of creating momentum, and that starts with you. But the thing that I it's kind of funny I'm saying this word. The thing I loved about what you were mentioning is the power of love. Love's power in creating momentum. And you talked about different kinds of love that creates momentum. And that is a love for the people that you are serving, an actual love for them, a love for the oils, a love for sharing the oils, and a love for the business. Like, and I actually think that there's, if this is just drudgery, it's like, well, I'm gonna do the 631 because I gotta, that type of thing. Like, there's a lot of people on our team that on the 631 success schedule, the Facebook group, they'll say, I lived it and I loved it. And that kind of has become the little phrase that people use. And it's very telling because it's like, I'm not just living it. I'm not just doing it, but I'm loving it. And that love for it, I think it creates that passion. It creates the enthusiasm. It creates the excitement, and that creates momentum.
Right. It kind of reminds me of Tony Robbins talks about pleasure and pain being the core motivators for whether or not people enjoy something. But if you think about it, if you execute the activities of the 631, then there's a reward. There's a, like if you go out and share a few samples and somebody's interested, then your excitement is fed.
Yeah.
So it's so I think there's, when you do that builds faith and
right,
and then you feel.
Yeah, and the key is. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go on.
Well, I think the key is maintaining your excitement and love when you're having crappy experiences. Like, like I went and taught a class last night and no one would look at me. The only people that would actually look at me were the people who were already signed up. And so like the other people, like every time I tried to make eye contact, they would just look down or they were texting on their phone. And after a while, I'm like, why am I even here? Like no one's even wanting to learn, that's kind of my feeling. And then the thing is that you have to walk away from those experiences and choose to just love it,
Right. Well, it just reemphasizes the importance of surrounding yourself with a positive peer group and things like that. So when you do have negative experiences, you have a way to get back into the fire.
Exactly.
Like this mastermind call.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Alonto, your line is unmuted. What are your thoughts?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I love this topic actually of generating momentum. And what I want everyone to do on this call is to look up on YouTube autistic basketball player Jason McElwain. And the story behind this is that here's like a general manager who's autistic, loves the game of basketball, and does everything and anything to support the team, right? And for his senior year, like his coach and a bunch of the other players basically get together to give him a shot to play, and in hopes that he actually scores a basket. right? And in this video, it's amazing because here they had like an intention for this kid, right? And wanting him to be successful. So in the initial couple of shots that he took were air balls. Like a couple shots from the 3-point line, air balls, like totally missed the basket. But a second time around, a third time around, he hits a shot. Then another shot. And then another shot. And like the kid just caught fire. Like, and if you watch the video, if you've never watched the video before, like it's gonna bring tears to your eyes because the story behind it, it's like everyone's life story, right? Like everyone's like wanting to be like the best version of who they are, and for a moment, like this kid did it because he wasn't afraid to step up, and he wasn't afraid to fail. And even when he failed, and even when he like threw up that air ball, he continually took the shot because the team believed that he could do it. And when he hit that shot, like the entire, not just like the team went crazy, like the entire stadium went crazy, and even the people that they were playing against went crazy because of the energy that was created through that momentous action and repeated action after that.
Oh, I know, I've watched this, and it is one of the most inspiring things. And the thing that's so cool about it, like I agree with you, is that when you talk about momentum, the first shot that he hit, the crowd went crazy. But by the time he hit his 5th or 6th 3 in a row, the place was going bonkers.
Mayhem.
It was just mayhem. And it's because but that's a good example of momentum. It's like when you catch fire, you just keep going. Great point.
And the important concept that I want people to note with this is that when the person is hot, like when the person's on fire, keep feeding that person the ball.
Yep. Yes.
Like notice that they didn't like, oh, he made like a bunch of shots already. Let's give it to other people and like make sure that they get a shot too. Like no, like the team knew like what they were doing. They wanted to accomplish and wanted to produce momentum. So like whoever had the up chance, they gave the ball to.
Hey, you know what? That's a great point, Alonto. Do you care if I make a point off of that? When you want to create momentum in your team, go where the fire is. A lot of times what happens is that we tend to spend our time helping teams that need our time. In other words, they're weak, or there isn't any momentum there, and we think, well, there's already momentum going here, so I'm just going to go over here and spend my time here constantly trying to beat this horse into submission, right, to make it happen. But in reality, go spend time with people who deserve your time. Feed the ball, feed yourself and the ball to the people who are on fire, and it creates so much momentum that many times the other teams that are struggling catch fire as a result of just seeing the massive amount of activity happening where it's already happening. And so don't be afraid of just going where the fire is. I think that's a great point. Is there anything else you want to say on that, Alonto?
And the last point I want to make with this analogy of basketball is, what does the coach do to stop momentum if they're on the other team suffering from like that surge of momentum?
You still there?
So Tess, let me ask you that question. What would a coach do to stop momentum?
Take a timeout.
From the other team.
Take a timeout.
So that's another very important concept, is that one of the biggest killers of momentum is taking a timeout.
That's a great point. That is a fantastic point, because it's when a leader makes the mistake of telling their team, "Hey, everybody, just so you know, I'm taking time off right now," and all of a sudden everyone goes, "Oh,
What a great idea!
What a great idea! and then they just all stop. So thank you. That's a great point. Okay. All right, David Ellis. I just unmuted your line. What are your comments?
I'm not sure how I follow up that. That was literally, he made exactly the point that I was going to talk about. With one simple statement: how do you stop momentum? And it's called a timeout. The key to momentum is just activity.
Yep.
It's being active. It's being engaged in what you're doing and tracking your activity. We've been focusing a lot lately. All too often, I think we all focus on our results, right? You look at your results and what are my results, and then we get frustrated because we look at somebody like who was it? Lindsay, the first that she just went and over a weekend had 18 enrollments, and we look at that and we think, man, I can't do that. I'm done, right? That's just, I could never create that kind of momentum. But the reality is, if you focus on your activity, the momentum will come, and momentum will be whatever it needs to be for you. We've had a new building that's just started that we're just starting up, and we speaking of Alonso and Desiree, we shared with them their experience where she just went out and just did her 2 samples a day, just contact 2 people a day for like 2 months, and just every day 2 people a day, and that created such momentum in their business that they rode that, and then they had people in the classes, and then people signing up, and people wanting to build, and before you know it, they're 13 months later, they're diamond. And it just came from the fact that she went out, I'm sure they went out, and were active every single day. And that's really the true crux of the whole 631 and everything that we teach is creating activity. And if you measure your activity, not your results, you know where your results need to be, but you measure your activity, because that's the one thing you control. And if you focus on just activity and being active and consistent and when you can do spurts, because spurts create more momentum. But the true just staying consistent and staying active will get you there, because as Alonso said, that the killer of momentum is timeout. And so making sure that you're doing that. And then the last thing that I would say, and just as far as the nuts and bolts, like technique, for those of you that are out building, how do I keep momentum going with my people? One of the things I think we do too often is we get them up in speed, we get them teaching a class, and we think now they're on their way. But the reality is that's just the very beginning. And as Rod said, you've got to nurture that fire. You've got to get that from going. And so the key is make sure that after your people are teaching a class, that you're going to those classes and you're helping them identify builders, and you're helping them get those builders solidified, and then working with that next builder. And that is how you drive momentum within one of your leaders' businesses, because they see that and they see that activity happening. And as you mentioned, Seth, when they see somebody enroll from a class that they didn't even attend, that maybe you were helping their builder with, there's just something that happens inside of the person, and there's that realization that this isn't just all me. Right. I don't have to enroll every person that's going to be in my organization. And that's a concept that is so foreign to most people who are in an employee or a self-employed mentality, because it's all about what do I do and the dollar I make for it. And when you start to think like a successful business owner, and they understand leverage. They understand that I'm going to put this system in place, and then an 18-year-old kid is going to come run it for me. And when you see those first people come on, you're like, oh my goodness, and you're sitting there looking at your back office, and boom, 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 boom. These people just start showing up in your organization, and you start to change your mentality, you change what you are, and you change the way you think, because now you're utilizing leverage. Leverage is a powerful concept in momentum.
Yep. Yeah, great points. I also, when you were talking about the key is consistency, the 2 per day type of a thing. It's about being consistent, and then with periods with spurts. I agree with that. I think consistent action followed up or started with spurts, and then leading to more consistent action. But I think that's really important because those spurts will actually create
Right,
it's a
especially
fantastic way.
especially if you've plateaued
Uh-huh.
and say you've developed, like, especially for us that have reached the higher ranks and things like that. The biggest danger for us is not necessarily so much loss of momentum as stagnation. Just
Where you hit a
where you
plateau.
maintain.
Yeah.
And I was reading an article by Eric Worre on the GoPro, network marketing professional deal, and one of the things he was talking to high income earners about is creating bursts of activity, where you have 90-day bursts. So if you've gotten into a routine where you're just kind of plodding along but not making progress, and the way you can tell that if you're just plodding is if your volume is staying the same, or if your team numbers aren't growing, and they can stay the same in large organizations. And so the way to break through that, one of the recommendations he had was through these 90-day bursts, and recommended that every major leader have at least annually was going through 90-day intensive periods at least once a year. Now, when you're smaller, you don't have the luxury of doing that once a year. You've got to put that burst in to make sure that you actually solidify that leadership. But once you have a solidified leadership base, then it's important that
you have seasons,
right?
It's the same thing. I mean, even like when farming. I mean, there was during potato harvest, everybody took off. I mean, it's like there's a time
right
where you put your head down and it's spud
right.
days, right?
When and when the potatoes had to come in or the hay had to be baled, it was all hands on deck. I mean, it just a full energy round the clock,
exactly
kind of thing.
And I think that anyway, this is fantastic. The other thing is, you didn't say this word, David, but you described it, and that is taprooting creates momentum. So it's working with a builder, not just leaving them once they can teach a class. You're there with them at the class to find the next builder, to help them get started, to help them know how to teach a class. Why? To find and commit the next builder, and you keep doing that, and you start pushing an organization down 5, 6, 7 levels deep, and you're down there and you're holding a class, and at that class 5 people enroll. Well, guess what? You just excited everybody in that taproot that you built. The entire team gets excited, and I think that we're learning that momentum is when the amount of people who are excited, to do activity. Okay, we have Desiree. I believe your hand. Yep, you're ready. Okay, go ahead, Desiree.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to take this on a different level, a little more philosophical. So I believe that there are certain people who are designed to do doTERRA. There are certain people who are destined to do doTERRA. And for me, I'm that person. For me, it was a calling. And I honored the calling, I answered the calling, and I stepped into it. And there are people that you will meet that they're meant to do. Like Mary, she was meant to do doTERRA. And you know what? Even though she took a 5-month break, I'm still bitter about it. She still answered the call and continued. But I never gave up on her, even though she took that 5-month break. And Debbie Old, she was somebody I communicated for over a year. She was my first person that I enrolled, and she qualified me for diamond. She hit silver in a month when she decided to start building. I always knew Debbie was supposed to do doTERRA. And this is where intuition comes in. You have got to listen to that intuition. And of course, you always build with a fire. That's what I did. But I never left Mary or Debbie behind. I always continue to interact with them, not like, come on, do the business. I never interacted at that level. And I kind of want to go back to where Mary was going with loving people and being there for people. When Debbie's daughter was sick, I helped her figure out what to use, gave her some ideas. And at this time, guys, I was not that great at oils. I was just like off the Modern Essentials book. She would ask me all these questions. What do I do for this? And I'm like, I just literally got it from the Modern Essentials book. and she had tremendous results. Tremendous results. And so when you feel like you meet somebody and they're meant to do doTERRA and you know it, it's just like
pulling at you, don't let them go. That doesn't mean you harass them, but I mean, continue that relationship, continue to build rapport, continue to build that closeness, because I love how David talked about the tap rooting. It's all about building close relationships. It's about building trust. It's about being honest with yourself. Please, please don't lie, or keep your promises. Like, do what you say you're going to do, because people are watching you all the time. If you give in the organization and honor everyone in it who is a committed builder, whether you enrolled or there's 7. I work with people who are in my level 8 who are committed builders. I build that relationship, and I continue to build that relationship, and they feel so safe around me, and they know they can trust me. That trust is critical, and building that level of community is what builds momentum. So, yes, you can take your vacations, but absolutely never check out. Never check out of your team, because they're your family. You've got to treat them like they're your family members. They're your brothers and your sisters. And don't give up on the ones you know it will one day click on. Just love them and serve them where they're at. And if you're always engaged with people, not just, isolating yourself from the world, you will have momentum. Engage, be open, be vulnerable, share your spirit with people, share your dreams, your life, be real, be authentic. And that's what people need now, is authenticity, because there's too much fake in the world. So be authentic and get engaged with people if you want momentum.
Great points, Desiree. And I want to. So Jacqueline. Well, actually, before Jacqueline, I'm gonna go to Jacqueline Child. But before I do that, I just wanted, as quick as you can describe this, Desiree. But you mentioned it's that intuition when you meet someone who you know is supposed to do this. I actually think that I have definitely experienced this before. But how would you describe that to someone who is new to this? What is it like? What does that intuition feel like when you meet someone in that way?
So everyone experiences intuition in different ways. Some people may have a repetitive thought of it. If you keep thinking about this person doing doTERRA, that's probably a message. That's probably a sign. For me, I hear it. I audibly hear things, so I'm a little weird. But I also, I also feel it in my body. So some people are very kinesthetic. So I want you guys to experience life on a little deeper level. There's so much going on that most people don't understand. But if you feel it like, oh my God, it's just in my gut. I'm like, oh, she's supposed to do this. I know it. You're like, guttural feeling. I get that with some people, and it's like, but I'm still very respectful and very patient, and just I spoke with Debbie Olds for over a year. And I love every minute of it. I did not get I never got frustrated. You don't get frustrated with people. You have to respect timing. It's probably not the right time now, but maybe in 6 months it will be the right time. So some people, they feel it in every fiber of their being. I'm sure Rod had this strong feeling about you, Seth. You're one of the first people he thought of. For me, Mary and Cherie, they were the first people I was like, and they end up being my core builders.
Yeah.
That is the whole way. But go ahead.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly, and I think the kind of the reoccurring thought. I like that you keep on thinking about him. They would just do so good at this. And the other thing is you mentioned the 6 months. You waited 6 months. There are people I've waited on for years. Years. And the thing is that's also part of momentum. It's the fruit that comes when you've done consistent activity over a long enough period of time that there's always a harvest happening, because the fruit from the labors you were performing a year or 2 or 3 ago you're still getting paid on that. Okay, Jacqueline Child, bring it home. What are your thoughts on momentum?
Okay, that's going to be hard to follow Desiree. That's kind of an ending cool statement. But I was just, I raised my hand a while ago, so hopefully I can end this well. So, I remember when we were moving from our home in Yakima And David said to me, Jacqueline, you cannot do doTERRA this week. You cannot do it. We are moving. You have to pack. That is what we're doing. And I was sitting there going, are you kidding me? I just had a new builder who's excited, right? And I was like, I cannot, even in this week, like I have the perfect excuse in the world to be like, I'm moving this week. But I remember just feeling like you cannot just drop her for a week. Like, you cannot. And I remember, like, secretly scheduling classes with her, not knowing how in the world I could possibly teach those classes.
I love that, secret classes.
But I knew from experience, like, you drop a leader, you can lose that leader. Like, you got to catch him while you got him, right?
Right.
So I remember scheduling those classes, just like a total hoping that somehow David wouldn't be super upset that I scheduled them. Well, it ended up that she ended up canceling all of them. But what happened in the meantime, I totally felt like that was a God thing. Like, I knew that I couldn't leave her hanging and say, well, not this week. But what ended up happening is she knew she could count on me as a leader because I scheduled classes. They ended up getting canceled, so I didn't even have to teach them. It all worked out in the end. I don't know if this makes any sense, but the point is, what I was going to say is, you want a momentum killer, you get people excited about the business, and then you don't support them. And I mean, not just in the future, like, you don't support them now, and you've lost your business builders. So that's the problem with calling time out, is you get somebody who's excited. And isn't that what we learned this whole thing? Who has the most excited people, has the most momentum? You get people excited, you push, you go through that potato harvest, and then you just stop. And that's like the way you kill momentum.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this round has gone well, but I just felt like that was something people need to realize. Like, if they've wondered, why haven't I done so much work? And if they look and see where they've taken breaks, first of all, don't take breaks. Secondly, look and see, and it's because you left this elevator hanging. And I'm speaking to the choir because I've done this myself too.
Yes.
But when someone suggests, you don't put them off.
I think.
You go, right?
Yes, and by the way, I know that we're a little bit past the hour on the clock, but we started this call a little bit late, and I actually wanted to do this, and so I actually just want 1 or 2 word answers from every diamond who's participated on this call, and Lindsay as well, since she was the first one to kick this off.
Soon to be diamond.
Soon to be diamond here. So what I'd like, let's go backwards from where we just started. So Jacqueline, Desiree, David, Alonto, Mary, Julianne, and then Lindsay. What I would like from each of you is give us a one word or one sentence answer. What kills momentum? What is the do not do this of all things? Never, ever don't do this. Okay. Go ahead, Jacqueline.
Take a break. Never take a break.
Okay.
I would say listening to the fears and believing lies that you're not good enough.
Listening to fear and believing lies that you're not good enough. Fantastic. Thank you. David Ellis, you still there?
Call a timeout.
Yeah.
Don't call timeouts. And don't let other people call timeouts in your business. Don't be affected. You move forward. Don't let the other coach call timeout.
Okay, good. Alonto.
If you miss, take another shot.
Right. Don't. Right. So if you have a miss, then you better start shooting again. Because otherwise, that's the only way out of it. Otherwise, you killed it. Good point. Mary.
Lack of enthusiasm and love for others and treating your business like it's a job.
Awesome point.
That was good.
Yeah, Julianne, let's see if you can follow that up.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to follow that one. I think the biggest thing is I like what Desiree mentioned in when you start believing those thoughts that will come at you so hard and so fast when you start doing this and deciding you're going to do it. If you start believing those thoughts and let them staying with you, it kills momentum. Just those thoughts, those beliefs, whatever it is that just is, that fear, that frustration, that overwhelmment, if you let it continue, if you continue on those thought paths instead of stopping them in their path and realizing what they are, if you don't stop them, it stops momentum and it stops you cold.
Interesting. Addressing these thoughts. You've got to control the thoughts in your head. That'll kill momentum. Okay,
Right.
great. And Lindsay, go ahead and what are the things that kill momentum that you've seen?
You're asking me what are the things that kill momentum? I'm sorry, I was taking a kid to the bathroom.
Yeah, the question was I asked so I talked about what
That
causes
stops
momentum.
Right, it does, yes. I'm working at a kid's interest place, and the kids are playing while I'm working today. So.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
But one thing what stops momentum in my business, what I've seen when it stops momentum is when I allowed the negative things that were coming in my life, and I've had a lot of crap come up, and when I let that stop my own movement, regardless as to what I was saying to my team about, oh, it's okay, life is great, we're going to keep moving, but when you saw what I was personally doing, like, normally when I'm excited, I've got, I'm talking about everything all the time, and, those little gold, little metal things on that 631 that I don't know why they work for me, but they work for me. But when I quit doing that, the momentum flowed. And when I allowed those thoughts about this is never going to happen for me because this, that, or the other, that's the momentum of my team. But as soon as you can, just like everybody was saying before, when you can block out negative thoughts, or even better, I was doing some yoga retreats with part of my treatment, but it was, you can hear those thoughts and you can see them, but just let them float by.
Yep.
So instead of grabbing onto them and letting them take hold, acknowledge there is there.
Yep.
But then allow them to float on by, because don't allow that to come into your soul and into your being.
Yep.
Let the thoughts come by, push them away.
That's a great point. Yeah, you can't control if a bird lands on your head, but you certainly don't have to let it build a nest. And you can do something about that.
That's beautiful.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate everybody's input on this call. I think we've learned a lot about what creates momentum. I do want to just kind of end the call by saying that the timeouts do come, but you can't do it in the middle, right? During the game and during momentum, do not call a timeout. But those timeouts do come. And actually later on in the business, you'll find out that those timeouts actually create momentum, meaning that when your team sees that this leads to a great lifestyle, that creates momentum too. And so just realize that I know that some people are probably hearing this going, crap, can I never stop? It's like, no. There are breaks that come. There are. But if you want to kill the momentum that you're experiencing in your business, when you start momentum, keep the momentum going. Keep that going, and don't ever, in the middle of that burst or that growth, just go, well, I'm stopping now, because then it's like starting a fire by rubbing two sticks together, and right when that thing is about to catch fire, you take a break. And it's like there's a time to sit back and enjoy the warmth of the fire, but it's not until the fire is large. So just some thoughts to take home with you. Again, thanks everybody for your call. We'll talk to you everybody next week. Thanks so much.